This is the third and final video in the three-part series on how to model the counterbearing bracket. This one focuses specifically on fillets. Okay, fillets. Fillets are finicky in all software, and even with some of the more advanced software and lots of experience, it still comes down to sequence and to have successful fillet transitions that you desire. The first two fillets we need to put in is the larger ones because we have two R9s that the smaller fillets need to wrap around. So it's possible you may have developed your model in a different method and may already have those features built in, but I chose not to. So we're going to go over to the solid tab, and we're going to select the fillet edge command. And I tend to set the radius first. You don't have to, but so I'm going to type R to set the radius, and it's going to be a 9mm radius. And we're going to have two edges that radius occurs upon, okay, on the base flange. Once we've done that, hit enter to accept, enter again, and you should have your two 9mm fillets. This is a good place to save because we could have a crash depending on what goes on with the next few. Okay, so to successfully fillet this, you have to go in a certain order or the fillets fail. I am going to reorientate the model so that we can see all of one side here. Okay, so our approach is we need to generate the fillet that hits this vertical edge and this vertical edge here in order for the fillet that's going to run around the top needs to follow those edges. So we're going to make those as standalone fillets first. So let's go back to the fillet command. We're going to type R to set the radius at 3mm. Now, this is the reason I like to set it first. It's because if it's too big, it may just fail before you have a chance to change it. Okay, we're going to select the vertical edge of this pocket, and then we're going to get the vertical edge of where the web meets the boss. And let's go ahead and do the opposite side as well. All right, we're going to hit enter twice to accept those fillets. Now, if it was successful, you should have fillets that appear as shown here. All right, when I fillet, I save in between every fillet. You can always exit out. I know there's undo, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a history of corrupt files. All right, now the next step is to fillet all the fillets and rounds that touch the planes, the two planes that make up the flange, the tapered flange. All right, so we're going to go into the fillet command, and they're all fillets except for this one round on the outside. Okay, we're going to select the transition with the boss. Probably got to zoom in, but you got to select the fillet you just created. And then we select all the way around in a chain. And we're going to include the round on the outside. And we should have that go all the way around. So at this stage, your model should look like this. Let's save again. Let's repeat that same procedure on the opposite side. Fillet. We should be able to accept the previous size. hit enter twice, and your model should look something like this. Now there are times I've seen irregularities where perhaps you build a fillet on one side and it shows up on the other. The root cause of that is most likely how you developed your solid. You may have had intersecting geometry that caused that to happen. So now we're on the last fillet and probably the most finicky. It's actually all rounds. And the first time I did this, I had to do it 3 times, but I realized that you need to include this segment here in the back. And if you miss any of the little selections, it won't work. So we're going to select fillet. We're going to pick each of these transitions. You need to include the 9mm fillet. And keep going around. And include this last fillet there. Cross our fingers, and it worked. Okay, so now let's repeat that procedure on the opposite side. Trace around the edge of the part. Enter and enter, and it worked. Okay, so all we got left is the fillets on the back of the model. So I'm going to trace those around, and again 3mm is fine if that's what your settings are. And when you trace the back end of the part. Now you could use the chain command or loop, but again I've had issues with it with more complex models. And enter, and enter, and there we go. So we're done putting rounds and fillets on this part, and I would encourage you that even if you can't get all the fillets just quite right, if you're able to generate geometry that will generate the proper views you need on the drawing aspects, that's what's most important for this class. In private industry, you are going to want to have everything consistent, but with the time frame that we're working in, and I myself have gotten some error messages out of AutoCAD that I can't explain. So there will be a little bit of grace on your grading on fillets and rounds, but do your best to do it. And if you are able to make those corrections before we move into the drawing aspect of it, it'll help your final grade for the drawing aspect of the projects. All right, hope this was helpful, and I'll see you online or on the next one.